Section 19 of The Story of the Trapper by Agnes Christina Laut. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ted Leinhart. Chapter 19. What the Trapper Stands For. Waging ceaseless war against beaver and moose, types of nature's most harmless creatures, against wolf and wolverine, types of nature's most destructive agents, against traders who were rivals and Indians who were hostiles, the trapper would almost seem to be himself a type of nature's arch-destroyer. Beautiful as a dream is the silent world of forest and prairie and mountain, where the trapper moves with noiseless stealth of the most skillful of all the creatures that prey. In that world, the crack of the trapper's rifle, the snap of the cruel steel jaws in his trap, seem the only harsh discords in the harmony of an existence that riots with the very fullness of life. But such a world is only a dream. The reality is cruel as death. Of all the creatures that prey, man is the most merciful. Ordinarily, knowledge of animal life is drawn from three sources. There are park specimens, stuffed to the utmost of their eating capacity, and penned off from the possibility of harming anything weaker than themselves. There are the private pets, fed equally well, pampered and chained safely from harming or being harmed. There are the wild creatures roaming natural haunts, some 2 or 3 days' travel from civilization, whose natures have been gradually modified generation by generation from being constantly hunted with long-range repeaters. Judging from these sorts of wild animals, it certainly seems that the brute creation has been sadly maligned. The bear cubs lick each other's paws with an amatory singing that is something between the purr of a cat and the grunt of a pig. The old polars wrestle like boys out of school, flounder in grotesque gambols that are laughably clumsy, good-naturedly dance on their hind legs, and even eat from their keeper's hand. And all the deer family can be seen nosing one another with the affection of turtle doves. Surely the worst that can be said of these animals is that they shun the presence of man. Perhaps some kindly sentimentalist wonders if things hadn't gone so badly out of gear in a certain historic garden long ago, whether mankind would not be on as friendly relations with the animal world as little boys and girls are with bears and baboons in the fairy books. And the scientist goes a step farther and soberly asks whether these wild things of the woods are not kindred of man after all. For have not man and beast ascended the same scale of life? Across the centuries, modern evolution shakes hands with old-fashioned transmigration. To be sure, members of the deer family sometimes kill their mates in fits of blind rage, and the innocent bear cubs fall to mauling their keeper, and the old bears have been known to eat their young. These things are set down as freaks in the animal world, and in no wise allowed to upset the influences drawn from animals living in unnatural surroundings, behind iron bars, or in haunts where long-range rifles have put the fear of man in the animal heart. Now the trapper studies animal life where there is neither a pen to keep the animal from doing what it wants to do, nor any rifle but his own to teach wild creatures fear. Knowing nothing of science and sentiment, he never clips facts to suit his theory. On the truthfulness of his eyes depends his own life, so that he never blinks his eyes to disagreeable facts. Looking out on the life of the wilds, clear-visioned as his mountain air, the trapper sees a world beautiful as a dream, but cruel as death. He sees a world where to be weak, to be stupid, to be dull, to be slow, to be simple, to be rash, are the unpardonable crimes, where the weak must grow strong, keen of eye and ear and instinct, sharp, wary, swift, wise, and cautious, where, in a word, the weak must grow fit to survive or perish. The slow worm fills the hungry maw of the gaping bird. Into the soft fur of the rabbit that has strayed too far from cover clutch the swooping talons of an eagle. The beaver that exposes himself overland risks springing lynx or wolverine or wolf on his home colony. Bird preys on worm, mink on bird, lynx on mink, wolf on lynx, and bear on all creatures that live, from men and moose down to the ant and the embryo life in the ant's egg. But the vision of ravening destruction does not lead the trapper to morbid conclusions on life as it leads so many housed thinkers in the walled cities. For the same world that reveals to him such ravening slaughter shows him that every creature, the weakest and the strongest, has some faculty, some instinct, some endowment of cunning or dexterity or caution, some gift of concealment, of flight, of semblance, of death, that will defend it from all enemies. The ermine is one of the smallest of all hunters, but it can throw an enemy off the scent by diving under snow. The rabbit is one of the most helpless of all hunted things, but it can take cover from foes of the air under thorny brush and run fast enough to outwind the breath of a pursuer, and double back quick enough to send a harrying eagle flopping head over heels on the ground and simulate the stillness of inanimate objects surrounding it so truly that the passerby can scarcely distinguish the balls of fawn fur from the russet bark of a log, and the rabbit's big eyes and ears are not given it for nothing. Poet and trapper alike see the same world, and for the same reason. Both seek only to know the truth, to see the world as it is, and the world that they see is red in tooth and claw. But neither grows morbid from his vision, for that same vision shows each that the ravening destruction is only a weeding out of the unfit. There is too much sunlight in the trapper's world, too much fresh air in his lungs, too much red blood in his veins for the morbid miasmas that bring bilious fumes across the mental vision of the housed city man. And what place in the scale of destruction does the trapper occupy? Modern sentiment has almost painted him as a red-dyed monster, excusable, perhaps, because necessity compels the hunter to slay, but after all, only the most highly developed of the creatures that prey. Is this true? Arch-destroyer he may be, but it should be remembered that he is the destroyer of destroyers. Animals kill young and old, male and female. The true trapper does not kill the young, for that would destroy his next year's hunt. He does not kill the mother while she is with the young. He kills the grown males, which, it can be safely said, have killed more of each other than man has killed in all the history of trapping. Wherever regions have been hunted by the pot hunter, whether the sportsman for amusement or the settler supplying his larder, game has been exterminated. This is illustrated by all the stretch of country between the Platte and the Saskatchewan. Wherever regions have been hunted only by the trapper, game is as plentiful as it has ever been. This is illustrated by the forests of the Rockies, by the no-man's land south of Hudson Bay, and by the Arctics. Wherever the trapper has come destroying grizzly and coyote and wolverine, the pronghorn and mountain sheep and mountain goat and wapiti and moose have increased. But the trapper stands for something more than a game warden, something more than the most merciful of destroyers. He destroys animal life, a life which is red in tooth and claw with murder and rapine and cruelty, in order that human life may be preserved, may be rendered independent of the elemental powers that wage war against it. It is a war as old as the human race, this struggle of man against the elements, a struggle alike reflected in Viking song of warriors conquering the sea, and in the Scandinavian myth of pursuing Fenris Wolf, and in the Finnish epic of the man-hero wresting secrets of life-bread from the earth, and in Indian folklore of a Hiawatha hunting beast and treacherous wind. It is a war in which the trapper stands forth as a conqueror, a creature sprung of earth, trampling all the obstacles that earth can offer to human will under his feet, finding paths through the wilderness for the explorer who is to come after him, opening doors of escape from stifled life and crowded centers of population, preparing a highway for the civilization that was to follow his own wandering trail through the wilds. End of section 19. End of the story of the trapper by Agnes Christina Laut.